Tonight, my darklings, we're stepping into a world where the supernatural isn't just whispered about in the shadows. It's studied, practiced, and lived. My guest is someone who doesn't just talk about the occult, she embodies it. Ashley Ryan, the Pythian Priestess, initiated Hermetic practitioner, host of the Occult Unveiled, and a guiding voice with over 500,000 followers, and a practitioner whose work comes from real encounters, real practice, and a rare depth of understanding that you don't always find in a book. She's collaborated with Sam and Colby during Hell Week, performed cleansings for the Paranormal Files, and offered her insight to artists and influencers across the globe. Tonight, she brings that power, that experience, and that knowledge here to us to explore where ghosts come from, how dimensions overlap, and what it truly means when the veil trembles and begins to part. So settle in. The next hour isn't about superstition, my friends. It's about revelation. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is your home for everything paranormal. This is the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney. You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Welcome to the program, my darklings. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Before we launch into tonight's episode, I do want to make a quick announcement. It is the last chance to see Cindy, Keza, Shane Pittman, and myself in the year 2025. And if you'd like to come on out, you can join us this weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. We are going to be at, of all things, a comedy club. As many of you know that follow Cindy, she tours the entire United States. She visits comedy clubs on their off nights, and she does gallery sessions and talks and Q&As and teaching lessons. Well, she's dragging along her two brothers this time. I'll be there. Shane will be there. And we're going to be in Lexington, Kentucky, December 14th, 2025. So if you have nothing to do on a Sunday night and you think, boy, it'd be great to go out and see my favorite paranormal team, this is your last chance to do it this year. You can find more information at darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. It will be a night of fun, reminiscing. We'll take your questions no matter how hard they are. We will discuss all things strange and supernatural, and I hope that you'll come on out and be a part of that with us. Let's bring our guest onto the program right now, Ashley Ryan, the Pythian Priestess. I'm really surprised I made it through it. Now, 3 times I've been able to say that without calling you the Pythian Princess, which has been
I greatly appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sure Pythian Princess wouldn't be bad either, right? I mean, there's worse things to be called.
True.
Let me ask you this, Ashley, because I do want to set the groundwork for it. There are a lot of people that are tuning in that have been fans of the paranormal and have a working understanding of the paranormal for years. There are brand new people always coming aboard that are seeking information. The word occult always has some kind of strange connotation. People automatically start thinking you're drinking blood, you're sacrificing goats and crazy stuff. That's not what the word occult means or what an occult practitioner is about, right? Can you explain to us what occult means in your sense?
Yes, of course. So occult comes from the Latin occultus, which simply means hidden knowledge. So what I study is not drinking baby's blood, even though, there are people who take it to that level. What
Right.
it really is studying secret knowledge that's been passed down through what's called the mystery tradition. So you may have heard of something called like the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece or the Mithras mysteries. And these are undercurrents of society, people who wanted to contact the divine through centuries, and it's been compounded on. Now, unfortunately, it's been bastardized, mostly because of Hollywood.
Right. Yeah, I think a cult suddenly becomes, people perhaps also mistake, there's a difference between occult and occult, right? Occult is the Branch Davidians, the Manson family, things along that nature. Occult, OCCULT, which that's not the way you say it, but I'm just exaggerating it for today's purposes. is hidden knowledge, and understanding that. Why? I mean, I understand back in the day, right? And by back in the day, I mean maybe even as close as 100 years ago, people still practicing a lot of these things in quiet because it could seem heretical, blasphemous. But we've kind of become a more aware and awake society, and we accept more when it comes to religious practices and ideals from around the world. Why do you think that there's still this
Hmm.
quiet hush that's held over this type of learning and teaching?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's because it's one of the four pillars of occultism. So, one of them is secrecy. When you study something like this, like I did, I had to go through an initiation which required an oath of secrecy. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is to keep people who will harm themselves with using this knowledge away from it. The other thing is that there's this idea, which has been proven within the societies, that if you talk about it a lot, it loses its power to an extent. So if I went around and talked about like all these amazing experiences that I'm having with my clairvoyancy, which for people that's like me being able to see ghosts and spirits in the astral, it actually like lessens it to a degree. And it's one of those paradoxes within the mystery tradition. So in 2025, there's been a massive shift in consciousness regarding traditional religion and the way that people connect to divinity. And so we're seeing this shift where people really want something different and more personal rather than a dogmatic religion.
All right. I like your approach on that. And again, very well spoken and thought out. The thing that kind of throws me, and you even mention it, is that it seems the more you talk about it, the less power it gets, the more that it's shared, which is strange because in a lot of other things, the more you speak of something, the more you call it into existence, the more powerful it becomes. Why is there this dichotomy that is it because they're, how do I want to frame this? If you speak about it in mixed company, the people that are disavowing it, ignoring it, mocking it, does that somehow water down the power of what this is?
I see what you're saying. So we're not manifesting.
Mhm.
So even when you're manifesting, like I'm going to jump into like spell work, for example. When I was in my spell crafting class at the Crooked Path in Burbank, my teacher told me that the unconscious mind doesn't understand the difference between this manifestation of words and the manifestation of the universe bringing it to you. So you're kind of bursting the bubble before it even gets a chance to manifest. So if I'm like, let's say I want to manifest $200, for
Mhm.
example, and I do this spell, essentially what I'm doing is I'm crafting the work that I do here with the candle and the herbs. This is a symbolic representation of energies that I am putting together, and then I'm shooting it off to the astral plane. So let's imagine it's up here now. This needs silence to incubate, and then it will come down to earth. If it's up here and I'm like blah blah blah, I'm doing this manifesting work, it pops the bubble and it no longer exists. So when it comes to the occult and the way that you are talking about these gifts, it is truly a paradox. It's like, I want to share these amazing things, but there's also this idea that like when it's inside of you and it gestates longer, you go through the 7 stages of alchemy internally, and it's supposed to be more powerful that way.
Oh, okay. That I understand. Again, great way to bring it down and make it a little bit more accessible for all of us to follow along with. I want to get into the work that you've done, and obviously, when you and I connected about doing this interview, you talked about the ghost dimension and talked about all of the things that you've looked into. And obviously, people that tune into the show like the ghostly world, but they're fascinated by what does that mean? Where is this plane of existence? Is it just a jump to the left and a step to the right? Right? Are we Rocky Horror picturing this? Or is it a whole other reality unto itself? Where do ghosts reside once they've left the physical form?
So everything in every dimension is happening everywhere all at once. The past, the present, and the future exists now. So when we think about where they go, it's not a place as much as it's a vibration.
Hmm.
So we exist on the 3D plane. You and I have bodies, which is very coveted. Like, we are so blessed to have this physical vessel. Ghosts exist on a high, so there's higher and lower planes of existence. So if we're going to go into like medieval thought, Empyrean realm is celestial, heavenly realm, angels. Then we have levels of that, which is now called the astral plane. And the lower you go down the astral plane, the closer you get to where you and I are right now. That's where ghosts are. Ghosts exist in this lower astral level. I like to call it the gutter. That's where
Okay.
they all hang out in the gutter. And then beneath, that's where you get the infernal, or what people like to call demonic realms. So, there was this moment in Sam and Colby's video at the new Conjuring house where the spirit actually was talking about being in hell. And the guys were really confused by that. They're like, how could he be in hell if he's talking to us? Because it's a vibration. It's a state of mind. It's not an actual place.
Oh, okay. Well, at least not at this point, as we understand, right?
Right.
And it's interesting you bring that up, because we do talk a lot about vibrational, and if you want to avoid the dark side and dark entities, be in a higher vibrational place, be in a more positive setting. So it's like these layers all coexist. So it's like your radio dial. Every station exists. You just have to dial it in. Once you get to that station, suddenly you've got classic rock or jazz or kids music, something along those lines, but they're all there simultaneously broadcasting for the world and the universe to hear. It's just finding the way to tune into the right thing. And I think that's what unnerves so many people when it comes to the paranormal, is that they're afraid they're going to scroll and catch that channel that they think is, oh my gosh, this is the ghost channel. We're having these ghostly experiences, but what they're doing is feeding a realm that's much darker, or has perhaps ulterior motives in making themselves known. How does the layperson start to discern that, so that they're not falling into the trappings of dark supernatural forces?
You need a guardian of some kind. So for me, my guardian is the Archangel Michael. And he's accessible to everyone. I know a lot of people get a little bit cringed out when we talk about like angels and Christianity, but while we'll go into this conversation, I want you to understand that that is just one tradition in which this entity or this spirit exists. Michael the Archangel, I want you to think about the color white for a second. For all of you, you call them darklings. I want you to think of Pink Floyd's album, The Dark Side of the Moon. So you have a white light coming, and then you have a prism. You are the prism, and then there's a shoot off of a rainbow. So everything is white light, and that is dark, light, red, blue, purple, green, all that's in there. The way that you interpret it is going to create the rainbow effect. And so depending on where you were born, the time frame, your socioeconomic status, etc., you will get a certain color or rainbow. So let's say red is Christianity, blue is Buddhism, yellow is Muslim. All of the entities exist in that white light. So if you still have a lot of religious trauma, then I suggest looking at different versions of where Michael comes from. He's not just Christian, but he's also in Jewish tradition and Canaanite tradition. So you can go back and see that this energy isn't just tied to one color. That's just your perception of it. So when you find an energy that you resonate with, so Michael the Archangel, the goddess Aset or Isis, those names have a high vibration, if we're going to go back to that. And so prayer is not owned by Christians. Anyone can pray. It is a petition. And so Michael and all the archangels are very special because it's their job to show up when they're called. They're not just a physical being. I could call upon the angel, someone in Japan, somebody in India can, and he will show up simultaneously at the exact same time. So creating a relationship with that entity. Now, there are markers to understand who you're really talking to. So whenever you find something, let's say you're not sure whether or not the spirit you're communicating with is a good spirit for you, you would call upon Michael the Archangel and ask the spirit, are you of light? And if it's not of light, it's going to go away because Michael's there with his sword and he's ready to cut down anything that is going to hurt you or is not of light.
But we have to be willing to open that door and ask the guardians in on our behest, correct?
Correct. Yes, you do have natural guardians, yes, spirit guides per se, but you do need to ask.
You know, a lot of people, I think that's an interesting element of this. And first of all, let me tell you, in all honesty, what you just described to me was probably one of the most beautiful mental paintings of religion, that it is this white light that comes through the prism of who we are and then is refracted out in different levels so that there is an understanding for each one of us. That is beautiful. What a great way to look at this. So thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, you touched on my favorite album of all times. So I like it for that reason too. But you're right. I mean, they all live, those colors live simultaneously. Each one is not unto itself. It's a derivative of each of the other colors, and that they all can coexist and be just as bright and beautiful, but it all comes from one source. And recently I just started doing a lot more reading myself on the theology and understanding of religion. And one of the things that I just stumbled on was this concept that there are multiple gods. There has always been multiple gods. There's always been this, but the fact is that it's not blasphemous. They are the ones for each religion to believe in. Each one is given something for its territory, for its geographic location and its understanding, because that's what's going to speak to them more clearly. And I think, wow, it really is opening up a whole new faction. And before everybody starts tuning out, oh my God, Schrader's turning into a preacher again. No, but I think it's important that we learn that there's more going on to all of the belief systems that exist out there than we give credit for, and that we are so much closer to each other than we give credit for. And if we could stop holding off and seeing people for the color of their skin and just start seeing each other for the fact that we're all kind of walking similar paths. And I know there are some religions out there that are certainly a lot more far away from the light than the rest. We still need to recognize and be aware of them. And this is where occultism, right, works, is you're learning these different modalities. And I think when people do take a moment to start realizing what it is that they're doing and how it correlates with other beliefs, we become stronger, right? Because then we are not one twig, we are a bundle, and it's harder to snap the bundle than it is the one twig, right?
Absolutely. I like to think of it as like a tree. So you have the tree of life, which has many different branches, but a tree needs roots as well to sink into the earth. And so we could, if you want to dive into this, we can. But demons and like the nefarious part of reality, I personally believe through my research and my sacred studies that the divine creator made nothing by accident. And that those roots are necessary because without the infernal realms, our reality wouldn't exist, because matter is dark. And if we didn't have the roots of the tree could not exist.
Before we go to our first break, when we leave the physical form, the ethereal or astral version of what we become, is it immediately just kind of absorbed into this ghost realm, into this dimension? Do we see that once we get there, we're going to see people from every walk of life and every different religious belief and system? Is that kind of the great awakening for all of us?
We'll need to talk about that after the break, because let me tell you, it's a story.
All right, well then let's do this. Let's take our first break. We'll come back. We've got Ashley Ryan, the Pythian Priestess, with us, and we're going to talk about the ghost dimensions, where we go, what happens, and Find out a little bit more about dealing with the spirit realm and what are real dangers and what are things that maybe we're misinterpreting and are lessons to be learned instead of things to be feared. We'll discuss that when we return to your home for the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Ashley Ryan, and this is the Paranormal 60.
You know, my darklings, December moves pretty fast. All the outings, the parties, the shopping, the travel, the did we actually wrap everything chaos? But once the noise dies down, there's always that one moment that I look forward to most. Slowing down, cozying up, and just being present with the people I love. And that's exactly why I keep going back to Cozy Earth. Their bamboo sheets, made from viscose from bamboo, are the best gift of better sleep I've ever given, and the best gift I've ever given myself. They're incredibly soft. They sleep cooler, and somehow they make crawling into bed feel like you're slipping into a luxury retreat. And if you've got someone on your list who desperately needs rest, or if that someone is you, this is the gift that says, take a breath. You deserve this. And then there's the bubble cuddle blanket. I've told you about this. If you want to give a gift that feels more like an experience than a product, like a hug that they can feel from you any time of year, this is the gift. It's got that plush textured feel, just the right weight, and it turns any couch or bed into the coziest corner of the house. Snuggling by the fire, movie nights, maybe even a quiet moment on the couch. This blanket makes all of it better. It's comfort that lingers long after the holidays end. Plus, you get a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Think about that. Try returning any other bedding after using it for 3 months. That just ain't gonna happen. Cozy Earth stands behind every stitch. So here's the deal. Now, through December 12th, head to CozyEarth.com and use my code P60 for up to 40% off. And order by the 12th for guaranteed Christmas delivery. Listening after that, don't worry, my darklings, the code still works and it's going to get you 20% off year-round. And if you get that post-purchase survey, make sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Paranormal 60. Again, CozyEarth.com. Use my code P60 for up to 40% off through December 12th, 20% off year-round. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries you into a cozy new year.
Did you know that radio just got a little extraterrestrial? That's right, Dave Schrader is back on radio with the Paranormal 360 every Sunday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Central on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station. Just download the Odyssey app and look for the WCCO logo, follow the station, and listen live. That's the Paranormal 360 on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station.
Hey, my friends, you're always asking me in email form, Dave, why do you believe in something as silly as cryptid encounters? Why do you believe that UFOs and UAPs exist? Well, if you missed this last episode of Paranormal 360 on WCCO Radio, make sure that you go subscribe to the free podcast version, wherever you listen to your podcasts, including whatever this realm is that you're in now, whether it's Odyssey or it's iHeartRadio or Apple Podcast, whatever you're looking for, go find Paranormal 360, subscribe there. It's free. You get all of the programs every week delivered to you. And this last week, I go deep into the cases that made me a believer, that really opened me up to these concepts, things that aren't just said in whispered hushes and were coming from a friend of a friend of a friend. These are the most powerful stories I believe that exist, proving that these creatures and these beings and these craft do exist. So go check it out for yourself. Ashley Ryan, our guest, the Pythian Priestess, my mouth just does not want to say the word priestess for some reason, is with us. And we're talking about the ghost dimensions, the realms of existence beyond this physical form. You said everything takes place all at once. So the past, present, and future are here. They're now. They're coexisting. So are all the alternate dimensions of existence and reality. When we leave this physical form, talk to me about what happens. How do we get absorbed into the great knowledge or the great collective.
Yeah, I'd love to. This is one of my favorite subjects. So I'm going to do a short version of this. And for everybody in the chat, you can go to my YouTube, and I actually have a 2-hour lecture that goes through this in much more depth. So all this information, it comes from a book called The Life Beyond Death by Yogi Ramacharaka, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. His American name is William Walker Atkinson. And the first thing we need to understand is that you have 7 different bodies. I know that's like, what? That's crazy. So let me break it down for you. Obviously, we have the physical self. That's layer number 1. The next we have what's called the etheric layer. And it's very close to your body. If you've ever like blurred your eyes a little bit, or you're like out of focus, you might see like a little black line and it pulses with your blood. This is the physical sensation level. It's your life force that you see here. The next layer is called the emotional body. This is where all of our emotions are stored within our aura. Then we have the mental layer of our aura. This is where our thought patterns exist. This is where thought forms exist. And then we have the astral body. So these first 4 bodies, this creates like the lower portion of ourselves. So the astral layer is the bridge between the physical world and the metaphysical world.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 3 layers are the spiritual layer, which is your higher will. This is like how you connect to the divine. It's also known as the etheric template. Then you have the celestial layer. This is your higher feelings. And then lastly, the etheric layer, which is the universal energy field or your higher self. So when you die, let's think of it like an egg, okay? So the white part of the egg, that is all of your lower level body. So the first 4. Then you have the yolk itself. So the soul is the yolk. And if you ever really looked at an egg, you'll notice the yolk has like a little membrane that is the vessel of the soul. And inside the soul is your spirit. So when you die, the soul vessel is removed and you're left with the egg whites. This is what becomes a ghost. We'll come back to that later. So we're just dealing with egg yolk right now. So the first thing that happens is you go into what is called the second great sleep. Your first great sleep was when you were being created in your mother's stomach, because you had to go from the metaphysical realms, create the body into this world. Same thing when you leave. This is also where your great life review happens. So this is where you see all of the things that happened in your life, and this judgment that we see in Christianity and in even ancient Egypt. It's your higher self that you're in front of. It's not the gods necessarily. And you go through this great review. You go into your second sleep, and then depending on your karma, the quality of your soul, right? Because it does get weighed on how good of a person you were then placed within one of the astral realms. So the lowest guttural astral realm, that's hell. That is our mindset. And this is like, you're not necessarily going to be tortured. Like it's not like the Christians talk about it, but that's not a great place. It's dark, it's scary. But you're not going to be in misery forever, because you don't stay there forever. You just stay there for a little while. This is also determined by your belief system. So let's say that in Native American culture, the happy hunting grounds, people in that culture, when they die, they will go to the happy hunting grounds for a while. And you visit your family. You can communicate with other spirits. Like, you stay there. Now, souls that are in the higher realms can come down and assist other souls in lower realms, but they in the lower cannot go higher. It only works one way. So if let's say your grandma was just like this amazing saintly woman, and she's up here, and you didn't quite make it up there, you're here. she can come down and talk to you and she'll interact with you. This could look like heaven for some people, it's nirvana for others. And you stay there. You actually have a whole second life in this place. Now, time doesn't exist the same way that it does here. So it's hard to give like a time, but essentially once your soul has rested, you then go to, well, Plato would call it a certain thing, but we'll just call it the planners for
Okay.
our conversation. So you go to these planner spirits and you're like, okay, I am ready for my next life. And you build this life. You choose, what are the lessons that I want to learn? Let's say in your last life, you were a thief. And you're like, well, you got to learn. You can't be stealing stuff. You got to learn about like maybe charity and whatever. So you choose this life, and then you actually have a soul family. So souls tend to reincarnate together. So you and grandma could say like, okay, let's do it. Let's go back together to help each other learn. So from what I understand, this is actually quite a long process. Lots and lots of souls want to come back to Earth. And it's, again, a blessing to actually come back here.
Well, not in the winter in Minnesota. I can tell you that I'm already living hell. I get that. That's a great concept. And I like the fact that, again, this kind of folds into the belief systems I've talked about for years here on the show and in live events, is the fact that the hell that is created is that which we put before ourselves. And I always tell people, if you're truly worried about hell, be good now, be kind now. And it's not just that Jesus vibe, because I love it this time of year too. The holidays are coming. A Christmas Carol is on TV, and the ghost of Jacob Marley appears to his old friend, Ebenezer Scrooge. And it is terrifying, this moment. But when you get past the layer of the terror, you realize this is a gift that Jacob Marley is giving to Ebenezer Scrooge. He is showing him the chains that he has forged in life, all of the sins and the people that he's hurt, all of the things. He has to tote this around for the eternal, right? And I tell people that those chains are every time you were cruel, every time you were heartless, every time you were thoughtless and did nasty things to people and just did that. Each link is bigger. Each link gets heavier, because one link, nothing. You begin piling them up. That's where it starts tearing your soul down. And you can feel that in life. So for many of you that are feeling that pull, start breaking those chains by going outside of the comfort zone you're in and becoming more empathetic, by being kinder to people for no reason other than just doing the right thing. And you brought up something earlier, that when you talk about the occult practices, it kind of weakens it, right? It becomes a weaker iced tea because it's too readily available, and you're not managing it within yourself, because that's where the power lies, right? I believe that this is the same. Don't do things just to try to get into heaven. Don't just do things because you're hoping somebody's watching. I think the real reward comes in what you do that nobody's paying attention to, except for maybe the person that you're helping. But it doesn't have to be anything bigger. I think that's what weakens those links. So I really think it's an interesting facet that, like you said, it's also in our belief factors. And you believe in hell, you're going to face hell. And hell is most likely going to look a lot like those moments of life review where you don't just get a glimpse of the moment you were a real schmuck to somebody. But I think in a way, you're going to have to live that person's life from that moment forward to realize the repercussions of the actions that you laid upon that person. So for all of you out there thinking, wait, this person that abused me and was cruel to me, they're going to eventually get into heaven. Oh yeah, they'll eventually get there. But trust me, they're going to feel every ounce of what they put you through, every piece of misery. They're not going to just skate. They're not just going to slip through the gates and be welcomed with open arms. They're going to have to face all of these things that they've done and repercussions. And I'm willing to bet if you're one of the people that they hurt and abused, they have a long line behind them. And those links of those chains are brutally heavy. And it's going to take a long time to get through those. Is that a fair assessment of what that teaching is?
100%. Absolutely. And I like to think of it for anyone who's ever read tarot, the devil card. If you look very closely at the devil card, you'll notice the two people, which are Adam and Eve, they actually have those chains around their neck, but they're not tight. because it's not the devil who's putting that on you. It's you. You are the one who's adding the links to those chains, and you are also the only one who can take them off.
Wow. Do we realize that in death, are we still tethered to the consciousness we had here? Is that why ghosts seem afraid to move on, that they seem afraid to do that? Or are we not even talking about truly a soul or spirit at that point? We're talking about a shard, a fragment of who we were, that fractured part of us that's actually left behind.
Great question, Dave. So we're going to go back to our egg metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4 levels that we talked about. So quick review, that's your physical body, that's your life force or etheric body, emotional, mental body, and then the astral body. So this is essentially the shell. This is and that's what my favorite mystic, Manly P. Hall, calls them. And sometimes little pieces of the yolk stay behind. Not all the time, though. But these shells, astral shells that are floating around, it can be because there's trauma involved. Now, to clarify, when pieces of the yolk get left behind, or the soul, it's usually because of a very traumatic death. This could look like a horrible car accident, an accidental death, or something like that, where the soul wasn't prepared to separate from the yolk. And that's where you get those poor souls who are afraid, because sometimes they don't even know they've died. And like, that breaks my heart when that happens. So some ghosts, I always tell people that ghosts are just people without bodies. They're going to be the exact same way that they were in life, and they can be lovely people or they can be total jerks. So sometimes that's why you see, especially when I was doing ghost tours in St. Augustine, Florida, you would see that there are spirits that are just kind of on a loop, and they're just doing the same thing over and over every night. They're not very sentient. And that's because it's only one level of that egg white that is left behind. They're not smart. That spirit is gone. To the second part to your question is, am I this person when I go into the afterlife? So the answer is, that is, your personality will be shed once you go through the judgment phase, and all that's left is your spirit. So me as Ashley, you as Dave, that is just one manifestation or one branch of the tree that is our soul. So when we reincarnate, we're going to be totally different people. There is no might, we will be. So I could reincarnate as a tree, or I could be a little boy in Australia in the year 900. It's very different. So you will have many manifestations of your spirit.
So just out of curiosity, are you saying that I could reincarnate backwards?
Yes, because everything exists right now.
Again, fascinating. I often tell people when they talk to me about, well, Dave, if reincarnation is real, how come everybody's Napoleon? How come everybody's Marilyn Monroe? And I often wonder if we are nothing more than an avatar. And my life lesson is, I really want to know what it was like to be Marilyn Monroe. And in the next life, I get cast into that role of Marilyn Monroe, and I get to walk it. So why so many of our souls may have those fragments of memory. Or
Yes,
I wonder,
possible.
when we're coming back through that veil to be reborn, do we sometimes pick up the frequencies of things that we're close to? So we think we're Marilyn Monroe, and really what we're doing is we're kind of basking in the scent of her perfume as we pass through it, and we'll carry it with us for a short time until it dissipates.
I think you're very close to something here. I think that it's either we're very close to them, or we had the same struggles that she had.
Gotcha. Or we're about to have those same struggles, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. The realm of spirits and people that encounter them. You know, what I really hope on the show, obviously we like a good scary story from time to time, because everybody likes to be spooked out and creeped out. But I also like to educate people to the sense that not everything is as you think. It is not dark and scary. It is just a reality of things that happen in life too, right? I mean, it's just a shadow of what we've already experienced. So when you're meeting spirits and they're lashing out, it doesn't mean they're evil. They're hurt. They're scared. They're confused. And it takes the empathy. That's why I'm not a big fan of people that go in screaming and yelling at ghosts and challenging spirits, because this spirit's much like a wild puppy that's been left alone and doesn't have its parents and doesn't know any other way to be. So I think, we have to remove fear from this as much as we possibly can, but we also need to be protected and aware. When we're dealing with things that are in the etheric realm and ghosts that are trying to make themselves known, what can we do to actually help them, Ashley? So it's not just, what's your name? Who's your daddy? You're not just basking them in stupid questions, but that there's something that at the end of the ride we can do to help or have a better understanding with these spirits.
So it's a little bit harder when you're not a priest, because like I have been given the power to part the veil, and I can actually like send spirits through. I've done it 3 times. It's exhausting. For the average layperson, the best thing that you can do is invite the highest entity that you believe in, whoever that is, whether you believe in Jesus Christ, whether you believe in the goddess Isis, or you believe in like I don't know, Kalima. You want that energy to come through, and then you tell the spirit, it's okay. It's okay to go. I understand it's scary. I understand that that's unknown, but it's going to be okay. And remember, they have the choice, right? I can force them through, but you can't. And like, honestly, forcing spirits through is a painful process. It's very much like dragging a dog that doesn't want to go. So invite in that light. And if you are so inclined, chat, find out Latin names for things, look up the Hebrew names for things. Like, those languages are filled with a special kind of energy. And that's why you see a lot of occult chants, not just because it's cool, but because that language is filled with a certain type of energy that it vibrates higher.
All right. You obviously have worked on this. You've been given discernment. You've elevated yourself so that you can try to help spirits. Our spirits, though, the ones that we bump into, I often wonder if they're supposed to stay here, if those are pages in a book to teach us things, as opposed to just a scary moment or an unsettling experience. Where do you stand on something like that?
That's really interesting. I haven't thought of it quite like that before. Usually in my world, the spirits are here to learn from us. So one example was I went to the Galveston Hotel when I was shooting a show called Exploring Haunted America, which will come out TBD, guys. I don't have a date yet. But the little boy that haunts that hotel, he was very friendly. And I wanted to help Melissa, one of the ghost tour guides, understand more about him. And what he told me was, I have to learn to be a man. And so that's why he hangs around the hotel. He watches, and he's been there for like at least 100 years. What is a good man? And so we are also the lessons. So he watches men who cheat on their wives. He watches men who do shady business deals. And he also watches men who are good fathers. So we are lessons for them. And I guess they could be lessons for us too. Like, I think of, like, the best example of this would be in the new Conjuring House episode with Sam and Colby, where we were talking to Patrick, who was a murderer. And it was so interesting. Like, by the end of this conversation, FaZe Rug was like, oh, I kind of like Patrick. Let's ask him if we should like him. And it was straight up no. It was very fast. It's like, no, do not like me. I'm not a good person. And I was like, that's so interesting that, well, I mean, first of all, he has to be honest because I have like a knife at him and I'm like, I'm threatening him. But the fact that, like, yeah, even though he's funny, even though he's charming, he has enough wherewithal to say, like, that's not enough to make a good person.
Right. Oh, and isn't it interesting that maybe that's part of the healing process too, is a lot of these people are so broken in life that they don't realize they're the villain. And the realization is the hell. The realization is I'm not a good person. This is wow. And I wonder if that, that element is part of who they are. The charming, eloquent speaking, really, well balanced appearance that some of these psycho killers and murderers have put forth is part of who they are, and maybe who they even strive to be, but they're so lost in that moment because of whatever issue they're dealing with that they don't get the discernment of their own true nature. Yikes. We need to take our final break. We'll come back. We have more with our Pythian Priestess. Oh, I almost got it that time. Words is hard. Ashley Ryan and more right after this.
Hello, Darklings and my fellow mind travelers. This is Mark Allen Lanou, the Gemini Mind. Come take a journey with me through this place we call life by picking up a copy of my book, Reality Was Once the Tapestry of the Dreamer, available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon online. You can find the links also on my website, markallenlanou.com. Chock full of stories about organized crime, the paranormal, my music career, NASA, and more. So go pick up your copy, and you all rock. Indeed.
Hey, beautiful souls. Winnie Schrader here from Love and Lotus Tarot, your guide through the energy shifts, emotional waves, and the cosmic chaos we've all been feeling lately. I mean, let's be real for a second. The world feels loud right now, right? There's so much noise, so much tension, so much uncertainty. Between the news, social media, and just trying to keep up with life, it's easy to feel like you're stuck on this never-ending roller coaster that just won't slow down. But here's the thing. Even though we can't control the outside chaos, we can learn to navigate through it. And that's where I come in. I mean, lately, have you been feeling like everything is happening to you instead of for you? Are you finding it hard to stay grounded when everyone seems just as ungrounded as you are? Or maybe you've been questioning your direction, wondering if the path you are on still aligns with who you are becoming. If any of this hits home, this is for you. It's like we're all trying to move forward, but the universe keeps throwing us stupid curveballs. But here's your reminder. You are not powerless. So all you got to do is reach out and book a reading with me today so I can help you navigate through those troubled waters and gain back control of your life. You can book a reading today. Just visit me at lovelotustarot.com. Again, book a reading with me today at lovelotustarot.com.
Ashley Ryan, my guest this evening. We're talking about different elements of the paranormal, the supernatural, opening us to the ideas of occultism in the fact that that is nothing more than sacred or perhaps forgotten intelligence that is out there and should be explored, something that you should be aware of, something you should know. And it's nothing to fear. In all things, there are dark sides to it, right? There is a dark side to science. There is a dark side to art. There is a dark side to history. So just because you're learning something that also has a dark side does not mean you need to avoid it at all costs. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Now, you talk about the power of ritual, and I find that this is kind of important as well. And I wonder where you sit on this. We talk about, are Ouija boards evil? I say no. It's a piece of cardboard and plastic. What makes it evil is the fact that we don't take the time to learn and understand what this tool does. A gun is not evil. It is a gun. It is a inanimate object until the wrong person puts it in their hand and uses it for something nefarious. And that is a clear choice. The problem with Ouija board and some of these other summonings and things that people do is that they don't really understand the depth of what they're trying to do. And when you go at it half-assed, it opens up. That's when you start getting spiritual ass kickings and you start getting things that slip through. So talk to us a little bit about the ritualistic practices of doing these things and why they're important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about spirit boards first. So Ouija board is a licensed name that comes from Parker Brothers, and I do not use a Ouija board. I made my own spirit board. I made it under certain moon cycles, but most importantly, on the back side of the board, and for everybody in chat, you can go to my YouTube and it's under The Secrets of Sam and Colby's Hell Week 2025. I actually walk through the entire ritual. So on the back
And
of the
we will
board,
have a link. Just let me mention that we do have a link for our guest on today's program guide. So for those of you watching, go check it out on YouTube. For those of you listening, wherever you're at, there should be a link in the descriptor for today's episode on how you can find more about Ashley Ryan and see her teachings and the project she's a part of. But please continue.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Okay. So on the back of the board, I have written in Hebrew, for the same reason we talked about earlier, all the names of the archangels, the 4 major ones in the 4 corners of the board. That's number 1. Board has to be protected. Number 2 is the planchette is not like the ones that you see everywhere. It's actually a triangle for a specific reason. And inside of the triangle, it is not glass. It is not plastic. It is a pure quartz crystal. And there's a reason that I have that, because I need high vibrational energies to make sure that's where the spirit sits. Number 2, the spirit itself is actually not in the board or the planchette at all. It's in a separate ritualistic setup that I make. So for anyone who's familiar with the occult, you are familiar with the triangle of manifestation, which is another triangle. There's a reason for that, where I put a black obsidian disc as well as something called the Seal of Solomon and a candle. And this is it. I basically trap the spirit into this space temporarily. And this is to make sure that the spirit is not in the board. I cannot possess anybody. Nothing bad is going to happen. And what I do is I allow it. Imagine like it's in one triangle over here on the right and the planchette's on the left. It like reaches its arm over and is using its finger to move the planchette around. So that is how the board works properly. Now, how did I learn that? I had to dig and dig and dig because there's not just a written procedure. You have to like go through books. You got to like read through Crowley's writings and figure it out. A lot of ritual is experimentation. So when I open up the sacred space, because I do cast what's called a circle, and this is direction for protection for all directions, north, south, east, west, above, below, and from within. Because just like you were talking about, Dave, like there's darkness in everything. There's also darkness in us. Mm-hmm. So we got to be like aware of that. So I create this circle of protection. I banish anything that is not helpful or not what I want from the space. I trap the spirit, but it's not like I'm like being mean about it. I'm like, here is an incense. Here's a candle. Here's some water. Here's a cookie. Like they do love candy. It's crazy. So I do all of this in order to make sure that it's completely safe. Now, ritual in general, according to Manly P. Hall, is a psycho-spiritual experience. So a lot of people are always trying to debunk the spirit board stuff, saying it's just Sam and Colby's like ideomotor responses. And the answer is maybe, and actually probably. But here's why I say that. Because we need our psyche, our mind, and our bodies to make ritual work. It is a psycho-spiritual experience. So the unconscious mind, the dark part of ourselves, is actually the highway in which Sam and Colby are allowing the spirit to operate through them. And that's
so it's almost like a form of automatic writing.
Correct.
You're opening up to allow this through. Okay.
But I do it with lots of protections, especially after Colby's partial possession. We don't play games anymore. Like, no. Everything gets double, protected. So when you go through ritual, whether it's an initiation or you come do a mystic moon circle with me, my goal is to put you into an alternative consciousness. So you are not going to leave your body. You're not going to like go into like a hypnosis where like, I don't remember anything, but you are no longer acting from your prefrontal cortex. You're actually activating these other parts of your mind, the subconscious and the unconscious, where it is more permeable and you are more willing to be impressed upon. So, doing things through ritual, for example, one thing that people do a lot is they do some kind of sensory deprivation. Dark room, black room, only a candlelight. So your eyesight is very limited. And this allows you to go into that trance state in order to have those experiences.
It's interesting you mentioned that. When I do EVP work, which is what I prefer to use because I like the immediacy of it. When I play back, I often close my eyes, robbing myself of one of my senses because we are easily distractible. And if you can see everything, even while you're doing a ritual, you're looking and going, oh man, I should have dusted those ceiling fans. And oh, speaking of which, I got to remember to take the meat out of the freezer tonight. And you're maybe not as into that moment. So I try to rob myself of my vision so that while I'm listening, I'm actually putting myself into that, being a part of that moment so I can hear what is actually being said. And I think that that's part of what, if people are feeling distracted when reviewing evidence, shut off other elements so that you can focus on what you're looking into, so that way you can see maybe better, hear a little bit better, and have that sensation available to you.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Wow, 100% right. If I could put that on the calendar, I don't think I've ever been 100% right about anything, except for the fact that Portillo's chocolate cake shakes are the greatest thing on the planet. But I digress. I know time is slipping away. We're going to obviously have to have you back in the future and talk more about this. And again, folks, there's information on today's program guide about Ashley so that you can keep up with her. And my guest last week wants to talk with you. He's working on a project that deals with occult and occult practitioners. And I'd said, well, you'll have to check out my guest next week because I think we're going to have a fascinating conversation and you have not let me down. So thank you for being a part of this. In the last few minutes that we do have together, for people that are out there that are fascinated yet frightened about everything paranormal, what kind of wisdom can you lay on us to help people get past fear and be more in the moment of experience and allowing these gifts that are given to us to shine?
So I'm going to give you 2 books that really helped me get a grasp on what's going on. The first one is called Magic, an Esoteric Treatise by Manly P. Hall. It's a short little book. It's actually a pamphlet. It's like 30 pages. You can buy it from the Philosophical Research Society, and it's like $5. What this does is it will explain to you a lot of what I've talked about today, and it's going to give you a greater understanding that you're actually the one in control. And that's wild to us because a lot of us fear the paranormal because we can't see it. And you are the one in a body. You are the one who has control over the 3D universal plane. So like a spirit moving something, that takes so much energy. For you picking up a cup, no big deal. Like you are truly the God spark on this plane of existence. I'm going to leave this knowledge with you. And this is, it's very sacred knowledge. In the Bible, when Genesis chapter 1 says that God made Adam in his image, he's not talking about your physical body. What the writer of that chapter is saying is that you are a creator, and that makes you like God. So your ability to create gives you godlike powers, which means you can create circles of protection, which means you can create also your own hell, and you are completely in control, but only if you have the confidence and the connection to the divine.
And for those of you shaking your head saying, oh, she lost me there, it's not about us being a God. It is, because if you are a Christian, Jesus says it in the second part of the Bible. He goes, anything that you want to do and you go through me to my Father, meaning that you open your hearts and minds to the good, to these things, that is the power. You're all innately available to do healings and do prayers. And for those of you still struggling, think about how many prayer requests this show puts out on our social media. Think about how many people have reported back insane healing miracles, things coming back to them that they thought were forever lost. So when you say it's impossible and that we don't have that, she's not trying to say that we are replacing God, that God is insignificant. She's saying that what we are is a piece that is allowed to do the things that God does, and we create in our own way. We make children in our own image. We create them, and it is how you train them and teach them, and the empathy and love you show them that makes them continue on that journey and that legacy. So don't just summarily dismiss it because a word or two doesn't fit your paradigm. That's what this show is about. And for those of you that will send me emails of why do we keep going into religious stuff, you have to talk about all of these different elements when it comes to the strange topics we cover here. You have to, because it is one giant tapestry. And you're going to tell me you believe in fairies and Bigfoot and chupacabra and ghosts and butt probing aliens. But when we get into religion, you're turned off. Man, the Bible and religion in every religion is nuts. It's a bonkers book. Every book is filled with magic. Every book is filled with miracles. Every book is filled with fantastical creatures. So we were born to believe in this. We were born to be witness to these things. And when we stopped was when we started being told we're not allowed to believe in these things. That's when we stopped living and truly embracing the magic of the world around us. At least that's my take. I could be wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I want to expand on that just a little bit for
Please.
our chat here. So we have to remember, let's go back to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album. So Christianity is just one ray. It is the most modern color of ancient truths. So the Bible is not specifically Christian. The New Testament is, but the Old Testament is also Jewish. And the Jewish religion came from the Canaanites, which came from Zoroastrianism. These are ancient teachings that have been recapitulated into a modern understanding. That's called something called syncretism. So I know it's painful to talk about the Bible. Trust me, I had so much religious trauma. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I get it. But when you can start taking those steps to separate church and dogma versus secret teachings within sacred texts, there's something there, but you have to be ready to open up to it.
Before we let you go, I'm going to just throw one more little curveball at you, just because I want people, this is a tough time of year. Right now, many of us are missing our loved ones that have gone. And some of us, as I talk about, I've been very open about the loss of my parents, and it doesn't just go away. And time doesn't just heal all wounds. What heals it is the love that we carry for these people and the goodness we try to take forward in their behest, right? That the best thing I can do now is live a life worth living so that I'm honoring what my parents brought me into this world for. But for people that are afraid that their loved ones are lost, are trapped, are afraid, and maybe haven't elevated or moved on to that next level, what can we do now in the living before we have to face those fears, before we lose someone, so that those people around us can make a cleaner transition? Does that make sense? Is there something we can do? Not what can we do to heal the ghosts? What can we do to fix things now and educate politely the people that we love and care about, so that they know when it's their time how to move through?
Man, that's such a hard thing to do because everyone has free will. So you can, preach to the cows come home and they might still not hear you. But you know what really affects people are your actions. And your actions have so much power. So I will give a personal story, for example. So my childhood, I had a very, very difficult time growing up because I did not connect to my family. They were very Catholic and I was a weirdo. And I had fights with my sisters for years and years and years. And in my Hermetic order, I was elevated to a certain level of knowledge. And it was in that moment where I was ready to start healing those difficulties within my family. I had to humble myself a little bit. And I wrote this very meaningful text message to both my sisters, apologizing for not being a good big sister. I said, hey, when I was growing up, I was really struggling. I was angry, and I'm sorry that I took it out on you. I'm sorry that I wasn't a good big sister to you. And that little moment healed so much. And that's just one example. So I know it's hard because we live in a very polarized society, especially in America. And I'm not saying that you have to forgive your family when you're not ready to, but understand that everybody is also in the same polarized world that you are. And acts of kindness, acts of charity, charity does not mean money. Charity means acts of love. So extending love to people, it's like a ripple effect. Imagine dropping a stone in the water and it creates the ripples. One act of love towards your family is a huge moment. So whether that's giving them a book, they may not read it, but you make that effort. If it's a saying like, hey, I'm sorry that I hurt you in the past, all those things will affect them because you're imbuing it with the greatest power of all, which is so cheesy. And I hate saying it, but it truly is love.
I like that. And, you know, to build a little bit on your visual representation, we are a greedy, self-serving race, the humans, right? And the one thing that we're waiting for is an immediacy to that good vibe come back. But what you have to realize, and pay attention to this, throw that rock into the lake, watch how it plunges. That's your moment of shining. That's you giving back forgiveness, understanding, and love. And then you'll notice that those ripples bounce away from that moment. But if you pay close enough attention and you're patient enough, you also watch that when it hits the shore, the ripples come back. And it may take a while, but it made an impact. And those ripples, those love vibes, they do come back to you. And you don't forgive necessarily for the other person. You're forgiving for yourself and giving that healing back. Man, Ashley, great conversation to have as we're going into the holidays and people are still a little stressed from Thanksgiving with their family. Now we got a whole nother one coming, but this is the time to evolve. And it's a revolution and a revelation in us, right? To move forward and become more aware. So thank you for the work that you do and the training and teaching that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. This was so fun to be here. And thank you to the chat for you know, bearing with me and opening and expanding your mind.
And I was watching. I'm sorry, folks. I saw you in chat. Great comments, great thoughts tonight. For those of you that were chiming in, we do appreciate that. I'm sorry I didn't run them up, but I wanted to keep the talk on topic. There are talks like this that I think are important enough that I want to be focused on my guest and not just throwing in comment after comment. But when you feel that you're not being heard because I'm not sharing your comments, it's not that. It's because I think that what we're talking about and that the guest is sharing is important enough that instead of derailing that moment, we can just let it breathe and be what it is and live in its own place. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Ashley, for being here. We will see you again in the future. Yes?
Yes, I'd love to come back. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. Hey, man, this is an amazing part of what I do on the show is I love getting a chance to talk to people from different beliefs and modalities and ideas and bring them forward to us, because there's no one simple answer to any question that we ask. So why not look at all angles of it to see that one ray of light come and hit the prism of our existence and see the colors that unfold? We need to understand what each one of those colors are. Ashley brought that up earlier, and it was a great and powerful thought that'll be with me for a long, long time. And what I appreciate about conversations like this one with Ashley Ryan is that they help remind us just how layered reality really is. I mean, whether you approach the paranormal through ritual, through research, intuition, or through lived experiences, tonight's insights, they widen the frame just a little bit more. And maybe they've challenged the edges of what we believe these encounters truly are. These are the nights that the questions matter as much as the answers, and where the curiosity of this community keeps the conversation alive long after the cameras stop rolling. And I hope the darkness of this world is just a little brighter with the information that we share here every week. And thank you, my darklings, for being a part of our Paranormal 60. Make sure to check out the Paranormal 60 wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And now you can also listen to Paranormal 360. That is my Sunday night shows on WCCO radio in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. But you can listen to the podcast version simply by going to all of your favorite podcast tools and find Paranormal 360.